When a woman takes you for granted, what she's really thinking. The paradox of love and neglect. There's a hard truth most men discover the painful way: a woman can love you and still take you for granted. At first, this doesn't make sense. How can someone who cares about you also overlook you? How can someone who once chased your presence grow numb to it? How can someone who used to crave your attention now roll her eyes at it? The answer lies in human psychology. You see, love isn't the same thing as gratitude. Love is an emotion, it's how she feels about you. Gratitude is awareness, it's how she values your presence. And those two don't always move in sync. When a woman feels secure in your love, she can grow so comfortable that she forgets to appreciate it. The very things that made her feel special in the beginning, your attention, your consistency, your loyalty, start to feel normal. They become background noise. And what was once exciting now feels expected. This doesn't mean she stops loving you. It doesn't mean she wants someone else. It doesn't even mean she's consciously trying to hurt you. It means she's human. And like all humans, she adapts to what is constant. Think about it. When you first move into a new home, you notice every detail: the smell of the paint, the way the floor creaks, the way the sunlight hits the walls. But after a few months, you don't notice any of it. Not because it disappeared, but because it became familiar. That's what happens in relationships too. She adapts to your love. And when something becomes familiar, it's dangerously easy to overlook. The problem is, being taken for granted slowly erodes a man's spirit. You start to wonder why your efforts go unseen. You start to feel like nothing you do is enough. And eventually, you begin to withdraw, not because you want to play games, but because you're tired of pouring into a cup that never seems full. This is where the dynamic flips. The very moment you stop chasing, stop reassuring, stop trying to prove yourself, that's when everything changes. That's when she notices the silence. That's when she feels the void. That's when she realizes the man she thought she could always count on might not always be there. And make no mistake, that silence speaks louder than any words you could say. In this guide, I'm going to show you the hidden psychology of what really happens when a woman takes you for granted, and what she feels when you finally stop trying. I'll break down the shifts in her mind, the battle between her ego and her emotions, and the exact moment she starts to miss you. Not from bitterness. Not from manipulation. But from clarity. Because the most powerful lesson you can learn is this: your value is not up for negotiation. The shift begins when you stop reaching out. If you want to know when a woman starts to miss you, here's the answer: it's not when you argue, and it's not when she pulls away. It's when you stop showing up. For weeks, months, maybe even years, she has grown accustomed to your presence. Your texts. Your calls. Your check-ins. Your effort. At first, she loved it. Then, she expected it. And eventually, she took it for granted. So when that rhythm suddenly breaks, it shakes her world more than she will admit. Stage 1: Confusion. The first day you don't text, she shrugs it off. Maybe he's busy. The second day, she notices. That's strange, he usually messages by now. By the third day, the question lingers in her mind. Why hasn't he reached out? Did something happen? She doesn't panic yet. But she notices. And noticing is the beginning. Stage 2: Anxiety. When the silence stretches, confusion turns to unease. She picks up her phone more often than she admits. She scrolls through your social media. She replays your last conversation in her head. Now the thoughts get louder. Is he mad at me? Did I push too far? Is he talking to someone else? This anxiety isn't about love alone, it's about control. For so long, she assumed your attention was guaranteed. Your silence is proof that it's not. Stage 3: Ego defense. Here's where things get interesting. The moment her anxiety rises, her ego steps in to protect her. Instead of admitting she misses you, she tells herself, "I don't need him anyway. He's probably just trying to get attention. I'll show him I'm fine without him." This is when the posts appear, smiling selfies, living my best life, captions, maybe even flirting with someone else. But don't be fooled. This is not confidence. It's defense. Her actions scream, "I don't care," but her heart whispers, "Why doesn't he care anymore?" Stage 4, the crack in the armor. Eventually, defense gives way to reality. The silence grows heavier. The lack of your presence becomes undeniable. This is when she starts to do small things to test the waters. Watching your stories. Liking old posts. Sending a casual, "Hey" message. Asking mutual friends about you. She's not ready to admit regret. But she's fishing. She wants to know if the door is still open. Why this shift matters. Here's the key insight: women don't start to miss you when you chase. They start to miss you when you stop. Because as long as you're chasing, they feel safe. As long as you're always there, they don't have to question your value. But when you step back, when you stop filling the silence, suddenly they're left with only their own thoughts. And that's when the realization begins: the man they dismissed might have been the man they needed all along. We remember the little things we didn't appreciate. When a woman starts to miss you, it rarely begins with the big things. It doesn't start with the expensive dinners, the trips, or the passionate nights. No, it begins with the small things, the little, ordinary acts of love that she barely noticed while she had them. The daily, "good morning" text. The way you remembered how she takes her coffee. The way you noticed the subtle change in her mood, even when she insisted she was fine. The way you tucked her hair behind her ear when she was stressed. At the time, she didn't think much of it. She may have rolled her eyes, brushed it off, or even acted annoyed. But now, in the silence, those little things grow louder. Why small gestures leave the deepest mark. Humans are wired for emotional memory. We don't always recall what was said, but we remember how someone made us feel. Psychologists call this emotional tagging. Moments linked with strong feelings tend to linger. A woman may forget the details of the lavish dinner you once paid for, but she'll remember the night you brought her soup when she was sick. Why? Because the first was an event, the second was intimacy. The small acts feel invisible at the time because they become woven into the fabric of her daily life. They're not one-time gestures, they're a pattern. And when that pattern disappears, it leaves a void that nothing else fills. The danger of familiarity. There's a cruel paradox in relationships. The more consistent you are, the less noticeable you become. In the beginning, your effort stood out. Every thoughtful message or surprise felt special. But as time went on, those gestures became the norm. She adapted. She stopped recognizing them as acts of love and started treating them as baseline expectations. That's the danger of familiarity: what once felt rare becomes invisible. So when you stop, when the norm suddenly vanishes, she feels the absence like a missing heartbeat. The flashbacks. Here's what often happens after you pull away: she starts to remember. Not in big dramatic moments, but in flashes. She's walking down the street and passes the cafe where you once met her after work. She's scrolling her phone and stumbles across a picture you took together. She's having a bad day, and out of nowhere, she remembers how you always knew how to calm her down. These flashbacks don't come on command, they ambush her. And every time they do, the same thought follows. I didn't appreciate that enough. Comparison kills comfort. Another truth: women don't realize how much you gave until they compare you to someone else. When she meets new men, she notices things she never noticed before. The lack of attentiveness. The lack of emotional presence. The lack of genuine care. Suddenly, what you gave so effortlessly becomes glaringly rare. She might not admit this out loud, but she feels it, it's just not the same. And the more she compares, the more she regrets. Regret creeps in quietly. At first, the regret is subtle. She just misses the way you made her laugh. The way you always knew what to say. The way you never forgot the little details. But over time, the regret grows heavier. Because now she realizes, she didn't just lose a man, she lost a man who noticed her, who cared without being asked, who gave more than he got. That realization doesn't just sting. It haunts. Example, the forgotten text. Imagine this: every morning, you sent her a simple message, "Good morning, hope you have a great day." At first, it made her smile. Then, it became expected. She stopped replying with enthusiasm. Maybe she even teased you for being too clingy. So you stopped. The first morning, she barely notices. The second morning, she looks at her phone. By the third, she feels a strange emptiness. That small ritual had become a part of her life. And without it, the silence is deafening. It wasn't just a text. It was proof of thoughtfulness. And now it's gone. Why this hits so hard? The reason women regret losing the little things is because they realize those small gestures weren't small at all. They were symbols. Proof that you were paying attention. Proof that you cared. Proof that you chose her every single day. And when you're gone, she realizes, those gestures were not replaceable. The lesson for men. Here's the most important takeaway: your effort is never wasted. Even if she didn't appreciate it in the moment, she will remember it in your absence. But here's the key. Don't keep giving endlessly when it's not valued. That's how you burn out. Instead, hold your standard. Give where it's reciprocated. And when it's not, step back. Because the silence that follows, that's when she starts to remember. Ego versus emotion, the silent war inside her. When a woman begins to miss you, it doesn't show up as a clean, clear thought. It doesn't arrive as, "I miss him, I want him back." No. It starts as a conflict, a battle between her ego and her emotions. Her heart begins whispering, "You miss him. You were happier when he was around." But her ego snaps back, "No. Don't admit that. You're fine. He should be the one missing you." This internal war is why women often act cold, detached, or even arrogant when deep down, they're hurting. The role of ego. Ego is self-image. It's the mask she wears to protect her pride. When a man walks away, ego cannot allow her to look weak, desperate, or needy. So instead of reaching out, she'll double down. She'll post happy pictures on social media. She'll act like she's living her best life. She'll even convince herself that she's better off. But ego is fragile. It can hold the mask for a while, but it can't silence the emotions building underneath. The role of emotion. Emotion is raw and unfiltered. It doesn't care about appearances, status, or pride. Emotion simply wants what it wants. When she remembers the way you made her feel safe, loved, or understood, the emotion doesn't ask permission from the ego. It just surges. And those surges are powerful. A song. A place. A scent. A random memory. All of it triggers an emotional wave that ego struggles to suppress. Signs of the ego-emotion battle. If you pay close attention, you'll notice when a woman is fighting this silent war. Mixed signals: one moment she's cold, the next she's unusually warm. This isn't manipulation, it's conflict. Ego says, "Push him away." Emotion says, "I want him close." Social media games: she posts pictures designed to make you jealous. She wants you to think she's moved on, but the very act of trying proves she hasn't. Indirect contact: she doesn't text you directly, but she likes your posts, comments on something trivial, or asks mutual friends about you. Ego won't let her admit she misses you, but emotion forces her to peek into your world. Over justification, she goes out of her way to talk about how happy or independent she is. The louder she insists, the more it's covering something fragile inside. Why women pretend not to care. Pretending not to care is a defense mechanism. It's the ego's attempt to avoid shame. To admit she misses you would mean admitting she undervalued you when she had you. She made a mistake. She isn't as strong as she pretends. That's hard for anyone to admit, especially someone who's built her identity on being in control. So she hides. She smiles. She pretends. But the act of pretending drains her. The quiet spiral. Here's the thing, when you stop chasing, you force her to live with her own silence. And in that silence, the war inside her gets louder. Day 1, he'll reach out. He always does. Day 3, strange. He hasn't said anything yet. Day 7, why hasn't he called? Was I not important? Day 14, did he replace me already? At first, ego feels strong. But as time passes, emotion grows restless. She begins to spiral, replaying old conversations, analyzing why you left, wondering if she pushed too hard. The mask cracks. Example, the party scene. Imagine she sees you at a party weeks after the silence. Her ego tells her to act unbothered, smile, laugh, flirt with others. But the moment your eyes meet, her body betrays her. She fidgets. Her voice softens. She feels the pull. Ego tries to hold the act, but emotion leaks through. That's the war. Why this war works in your favor. This is where most men fail, they break the silence too soon. They try to fix things, chase, or explain themselves. But by doing so, they interrupt the natural collapse of her ego defense. The key is patience. Let the ego burn itself out. Let her feel the emptiness, the memories, the regret. Because once the ego weakens, emotion takes the lead. And when emotion takes over, she'll admit, first to herself, then eventually to you, that she misses you. The psychology behind it. Carl Jung said, what you resist, persists. The more she resists the feeling of missing you, the stronger it becomes. Ego resists. Emotion persists. This is why detachment is so powerful. Your absence creates the stage for her internal drama. You don't have to argue, explain, or justify. Her own mind does the work for you. The lesson for men. Understand this, when a woman pretends not to care, it doesn't mean she doesn't care. It means she's fighting herself. Your role isn't to break through her defenses. It's to stand firm in your silence, in your strength. The longer you hold the line, the louder her emotions grow. Remember. Ego is temporary. Emotion is permanent. And in the long run, emotion always wins. The ego versus emotion battle inside her mind. When a woman begins to miss you, the war doesn't start outside, it begins inside her own head. On one side, her emotions. The raw, unfiltered truth. The longing. The flashes of memory. The craving for your presence. On the other side, her ego. The pride that refuses to admit weakness. The voice that says, don't text him. Don't let him know you care. Don't give him the satisfaction. This clash, ego versus emotion, is the very reason women act unpredictable after you pull away. She wants you, but she doesn't want you to know she wants you. She misses you, but she masks it with silence. She aches, but she disguises it with indifference. This battle is what drives the regret deeper and deeper until it spills over into action. Why the ego fights first. The ego always strikes first because it is the body's psychological armor. To her, admitting she misses you feels like surrender. It feels like giving you power. So she resists. She tells herself stories. He probably doesn't care anyway. I don't need him. I'm fine without him. If he cared, he'd reach out first. These are not truths. They are shields. The ego doesn't care about honesty, it cares about protection. Protection of pride. Protection of dignity. Protection from pain. So while her heart aches, her ego builds walls. The mask of indifference. This is why you see the contradictions. She posts on social media about how happy and free she is. She tells her friends she's moved on. She acts unbothered if your name comes up. But deep inside, the story is different. Behind the mask of indifference lies a storm she can't control. She's checking her phone when no one is looking. She's rereading old messages. She's watching your online activity, even though she swears she doesn't care. The stronger the front she puts up, the deeper the emotions usually run. The emotional rebellion. Eventually, the emotions start to rebel. They break through the cracks in her armor. Late at night, when the ego is quiet, she feels the truth. Loneliness doesn't care about pride. Memory doesn't care about dignity. At 2 a.m., when she can't sleep, it isn't her ego that speaks, it's her heart. And the heart whispers, I miss him. This is why women often reach out in moments of weakness, not in the middle of the day when their ego is fully awake, but in the quiet hours when the battle is lost. That's when you get the, hey, how have you been, messages. Not because she suddenly remembered you, but because her emotions finally overpowered her pride. Cognitive dissonance, the inner tug of war. Psychologists call this cognitive dissonance, when two conflicting beliefs clash inside the mind. Ego belief, I don't need him. Emotional belief, I miss him. This internal tension creates mental stress. She tries to rationalize, but the contradiction grows. She may even swing back and forth. One day posting about how independent she is, the next day checking your profile 10 times. One moment convincing herself she's over you, the next moment tearing up when she hears a song that reminds her of you. This back and forth isn't confusion, it's the ego and emotion wrestling for control. Why this conflict intensifies over time? Here's the critical point, the longer you stay silent, the more this conflict grows. In the first few days, her ego is strong. She's defiant. She convinces herself she doesn't care. But as the weeks pass, the emotions gain ground. Because absence is not neutral, it amplifies. Every memory becomes sharper. Every void becomes deeper. Every silence feels louder. And the ego? It starts to weaken. Pride can only sustain itself for so long before emotion breaks through. The breaking point. Every woman has a breaking point. It's the moment when the emotional weight becomes heavier than the ego's defenses. The moment when missing you hurts more than protecting her pride. When that happens, she acts. She texts. She calls. She finds excuses to show up. She sends that accidental snap. She breaks the silence she swore she would never break. Not because she planned it, but because her emotions finally won the war. Example, the silent check-in. Picture this, she's been silent for weeks. Posting online. Acting happy. Pretending she doesn't care. Then one night, out of nowhere, you get a message. Hey, just saw something that reminded me of you. It's casual. Harmless on the surface. But beneath it lies the truth, she's been thinking about you. She's been fighting the urge to reach out. And tonight, her emotions finally broke the walls of her ego. That one little message is the product of weeks of inner battle. Why this matters for men. Most men fail in this stage because they break the silence too soon. They let their own emotions overpower them and rush back, robbing her of the inner battle she needs to experience. The truth is, silence is not punishment, its power. By not chasing, you allow her ego and emotion to clash until the emotion wins. And when it does, she comes back on her own. That's when her regret is deepest. That's when she finally realizes what she lost. The silence becomes too loud. There is a unique kind of noise in silence. At first, it feels like freedom, like space, like peace. But when that silence is created by the absence of someone who once filled your days, it doesn't stay peaceful for long. It becomes oppressive. Heavy. Deafening. And this is exactly what happens when you step back. 1. Silence feels like indifference. The worst thing a woman can feel from a man is not anger, it's indifference. Anger still shows emotional investment. Even hate shows you care. But silence? Silence communicates something far more dangerous: you don't matter enough to even respond. At first, she tells herself it's nothing. He's just busy. Then, she checks your profile, your status, your activity, trying to prove her theory right. But each day that passes, she realizes you're not ignoring her by accident. You're choosing silence. And choice cuts deeper than circumstance. 2. The craving for contact. When someone has been a daily presence in your life, the absence is disorienting. She used to pick up her phone and see your name. Now, nothing. She used to hear your voice, even in short calls. Now, silence. The human mind craves patterns. When those patterns break, the brain goes into withdrawal. It searches, aches, obsesses. Just like a smoker craving a cigarette, she craves your contact. That's why silence works, it creates withdrawal symptoms. 3. Silence makes her replay everything. Silence doesn't just create craving, it forces reflection. When you're present, she doesn't have to think. She just reacts. But when you're gone, her mind replays old moments. And in those replays, you always seem more important than you did when you were around. She remembers your words differently. She reinterprets your actions. She wonders, was he better than I thought? Regret begins not when you leave, but when she has time alone with her thoughts. 4. Social media, the new battlefield. In today's world, silence isn't just about unanswered calls or texts. It's about what she sees online. You're not messaging her, but she sees you're active. You're not liking her posts, but you're posting your own. You're not reaching for her, but you're alive and moving forward. That is the loudest silence of all. Because now she knows, your life continues, without her. 5. Silence exposes her ego's limits. At first, her ego comforts her, he'll be back. He always comes back. But with each passing week, the silence dismantles that belief. Her ego thrives on validation, but silence starves it. No messages, no calls, no attention. Eventually, even the most prideful woman cracks. She doesn't just miss you. She misses the version of herself she could only access through your attention. 6. Why silence is more powerful than words. You could send her long texts explaining how you feel. You could pour out your heart in paragraphs. But nothing you say will have as much impact as what you don't say. Because silence doesn't just speak, it echoes. Every unanswered call is a mirror. Every ignored message forces her to ask, why isn't he responding? And in trying to answer that question, she realizes the truth, she lost something real. 7. Example, the party test. Imagine she's at a party. Music is loud, people are laughing, drinks are flowing. For a while, she's distracted. But then, her mind drifts. She pulls out her phone. She scrolls, hoping to see your name. Nothing. In that moment, surrounded by noise, she feels the loudest silence of all. Because even in a crowded room, she feels your absence. 8.